about 2008 was the first time I sent an in-mail through LinkedIn, my first lead generation action ever. Before then, I had been on the network since 2005, but collected connections, heaps of connections, and stared at them and hoped that somehow they would bring business to me and my agency. Twitter as well, collected followers, followed people. I'm going to take you through today in 10 minutes a strategy that all of you can actually take away and use to actually use social networks in a safe way. Build brand for yourself and your company, grow demand for your product category, and generate leads. And this strategy I'm going to present to you comes from the work we do with our clients. 2 years ago I launched an agency, what appears to be the first in Asia Pacific to specialize in B2B lead gen through social networks, primarily LinkedIn, Twitter, and Google+. So we work around the region in Asia Pac. This is a distillation in 9.5 minutes of part of the work we do that you can actually take away today. So first of all, my advice to everyone and what we do for our clients is don't start with a social network. When you're thinking about social selling, which is the term we use today for the process of generating leads through social networks, social selling is a very sexy term, but I wouldn't fall for that. The first thing is, what are we trying to sell? What's our product or service? Always start with that. Write it down, work it out. In real life, you don't sell all 1,000 of your products or all 500 of them or all 30 of them. You're always focusing on 2 or 3 or 4 categories or actual products or services that make you the most money. Social is not any different. Focus on the ones that are most profitable, safest, and this should be your first foray into social media, beginning with a product in mind, begin with the money in mind. Once you've determined that, the next step is, who do we sell this to? Which this is real business, right? There's no rocket science here, but now that you know what you want to sell, what service or product, who do we sell this to? And often this exercise has been conducted in mind, but not in practice. I'd recommend speaking to your list brokers, going to Dun & Bradstreet or Vita, or looking at your CRM and extracting lists, and put together a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, if you will, of your actual segments by country, by company size, by industry vertical, however you segment. So just before you launch the social networks, go through this exercise and get it approved by heads of sales, heads of marketing. Now that you know the product or service you want to sell, and you know who you want to sell it to exactly, you can think of the third step, which is start to enter social networks like LinkedIn or Twitter by mapping this pre-approved list of prospects and clients that you're fully aware of from a head of sales, head of marketing perspective. And LinkedIn provides its own search engine. It's a great search engine. It's free to use. It's called Advanced Search. It allows you to map all these criteria to LinkedIn. You can also use Twitter. Twitter has its own search engine, or you can use external search engines like People Browser or Follower Walk and map these offline approved prospect and client lists to the social network. And the great thing about this exercise is it kind of proves that the people you're selling to, your clients, your prospects, are there. For example, that's the LinkedIn list of CMOs that I ran this morning, and you can see at the top is Mark Buckman of Telstra, and there's thousands of them. These good people are willing to go onto LinkedIn and self-report, give you their details, who they are, allowing us to then search for them and find them. There's no stalking behavior here. This is marketing 101. Know your audience and find them. This is a list of Twitter CMOs that I ran this morning. Again, some fantastic people here. David Redhill, CMO of Deloitte. Just a great lists that match exactly the kind of CMOs and CIOs and heads of sales and chief operating officers and heads of HR that you're going after. They're right there. So long as you begin with the right strategy of knowing your prospects first, then get onto social. Don't go onto social first. Now that we've mapped our prospects and clients and know they're there, what's next? B2B, we know, has always been, always will be person to person. I want to tell you what I think about company brand. I respect company brand, and that's it. I do not feel an ounce of respect beyond basic respect, because all of my hopes and dreams and respect go with personal brands. Why? Because I've been in B2B sales and marketing all my life, and I know that the power of my personal brand has often overcome a weak company brand I was working for, or enhanced an already strong company brand. I don't care whether it's Telstra or Qantas. In B2B sales, the personal brand is as important as the company brand. We know this because a poor personal brand can destroy a deal, despite the brand behind them. Conversely, a great personal brand of trust and authority and information can actually enhance the chances of closing a deal. We know that B2B is person to person. And even in this man's case, in a B2C industry, his personal brand has sold millions of iPhones. I know I bought mine because of this guy. I was imagining him screaming at his staff, insisting on perfection, insisting on design, and I wanted that. So he allowed me to think of Apple as him. An approach to think about, if you agree with me on the power of personal brand in B2B, and that's where I specialize, is look at the people in your company and maybe start investing in them through social networks. Not just in real life, which you do already. You allow them to come to these conferences and speak and network. Why not enable them, train them to become social media enabled, social sellers, if you will, within social networks? In this case, go through a list of people that you most respect and believe could do the best job representing you through a social network like Twitter or LinkedIn. Pick them and then build their profile. Twitter bios can often, well, not often, I often see them full of wording and phrasing that has nothing to do with a person's professional capacity, and yet they're in sales or marketing. I've always felt a social seller who wants to build their brand and build their company's fortunes has to act in a way that is consistent with their product portfolio. And the company responds in like by investing budget. In this case on LinkedIn, LinkedIn provides amazing opportunities for lots of content, skills, expertise, publications, your own photo, a summary, PowerPoints can be added to profiles, videos can be added to profiles, downloaded by those who are browsing the profile. So great opportunity here to launch your people onto social networks. And once they're launched, the next step is go back to the strategy where you actually mapped your prospects and clients to social networks and enable these people to start connecting. This can be done via by Twitter, by following them and having prospects follow you back. I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you follow 100 people on Twitter and those you're following are part of your ecosystem, professional ecosystem, you will get between 10 to 30% following you back. It's a mathematical fact. So if you followed 100 CIOs and you were in that IT industry, you'd get between 10 to 30 of them following you back. Same on LinkedIn. Teach them ways of social networking to connect with these prospects that you've already pre-chosen. In fact, these prospects could be aligned to the actual salespeople themselves based on their own offline territories. And then start building need and trust. As Joe mentioned earlier, Need and trust are what sell truckloads of product. They need the solution. We need this. This is demand generation. If you're in IT, demand gen creates need. And you also need trust in the person. Belief. That's brand building. How do we do that? By sharing content. For example, finding third-party content that we know is building demand for the category. Often third-party content from Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Mashable, City Morning Herald is considered much more credible than when we say things. So why not adopt that? Why not use that and share it and editorialize it as well? Consistent sharing of third-party content around your category builds demand for that which you share. Same for your own content. If your CEO's been interviewed, I was interviewed, but my interview is absolutely full of insights, not about my agency. I hardly mention my agency in that interview. It's all about my audience. Full service to my audience. Same with your company. If your CEO or head of sales speaks on TV, you can share that so long as the interview is all about your prospects and clients, not about you. The mere exposure effect is very powerful. Social networks allow our faces, which is why you should always have a photo, by the way. Please do not have a photo. It makes me wonder, are you a liar? Are you a scammer? Who are you? Have a photo. Share. The mere exposure effect is the basis of all TV advertising today. The more times your face shows up, the more familiar and likable you become, believe it or not. It's a fact. And positioning. Please choose content that is positioned against the product or service portfolio you represent. Please don't go out there sharing content around 85 topics. Effectively, you end up becoming a branded expert of nothing. Think about what you're selling through your people, your social sellers, and enable them to find content around that area. And finally, how do we generate leads? There's two ways. Well, there's more, but the two key ways are as such. Now that we've actually consistently shared content around a particular positioning, particular area of business that our clients and prospects who are now following us on Twitter and connected to us on LinkedIn are appreciating, our brand has grown, the trust, and the demand generation has set in, creating need. We can now enable our social sellers to post content which links back to our own website. But this content, again, is all about insights, right? The new way for B2B people to actually make a difference is through insights. Even when you're posting something that links back to your site. Do you know why insights are absolutely required? The internet is the most corrosive force we've known in decades. What the internet has done is allowed B2B buyers to actually find out information, do research, review companies, and we know from various studies that by the time the salesperson's called in, 50 to 70% of the decision has already been made. Therefore, your staff that go out have to have insights, because if they go out and are simply just bodies, salespeople, i.e. bodies, they're bringing nothing to the table. What incremental knowledge, demand generation, trust can they bring when they're not bringing extra insights? So we need social networks to enhance that, to force us to become consumers of content, enrich our knowledge, build trust, and then when we post content, enable the company to benefit. Can you imagine rolling out 30 social sellers in your business who are focused completely on your clients and prospects, and enabling them to post content that then brings click-throughs inbound? If your website has been built in a way to convert these amazing prospects into leads, you have the beginning of a free in quotes because you still have in-house labor, but a ongoing free sustainable program. And the last part is outbound. The big thing is making sure the trust is there, the need is there, and start asking prospects and clients for meetings. All you have to do is build this trust, build the need first, And when you reach out and ask people for meetings, not in the salesy way that we're used to, but in a very much a social way, that's what social selling is all about, it becomes a much more higher hit rate approach, because those you're approaching actually recognize you, have appreciated the content, the principle of reciprocity has set in. You'll find that your ratio of meetings grows exponentially. And I think for most B2Bs, be aware that about 90% of all your leads through social networks will end up being the outbound type, which reflects how and mimics how real life B2B works.